Is it possible that the amount of money you make every day, every week, every month, every year is what you are conditioned to earn? Train your physical muscles to be stronger. Train your mental and emotional neuromuscles to be stronger. All right, so are your senses lying to you? Is your brain lying to you? How could your brain lie to you? Your brain tells you the truth, right? And I'm going to be talking about your brain and some of the myths around your brain. So let me ask you a question. Can you trust your brain? Can you trust your brain to show you what there is to see, hear what there is to hear, feel what there is to feel? Is your brain lying to you? A lot of people think that they see, with their eyes and they hear with their ears. Is that the truth? Is that the truth? Eyes are the brain, BDNF guy. Eyes are the brain. Well, think about this, right? Here's my eyes, right? My eyes. We see through our eyes, right? Light comes in through our eyes. Sound comes in through our ears. So is it your eyes that see or your brain that sees? Is it your ears that hear or is it your brain that hears? Is it your fingers that feel or your skin that feels, or are all of those signals, sight, sound, tactile signals, traveling through your nervous system and activating cells of recognition in your brain? I'm going somewhere with this, so pay close attention. Is that true? Are your eyes allowing light in of images, whether it's, my NeuroGym cup, right? So we see with our brain, our senses allow energy in formation, energy in a formation. This is a formation called a cup or a mug. And our brain activates cells of recognition. We have learned how to read, the words, right? We have learned, what things mean. And so our brain activates cells of recognition. And we say, oh yeah, that's a cup. That's a microphone. That's a t-shirt. Look at John's glasses. Look at John's hair. We learned what all these things are. Does this make sense? I'm going somewhere with this as it relates to your goals and achieving your goals. Can any of you guess one of the key elements of yours and my brain? What does yours and my brain want to do? Either Saleh and Neil, what does yours and my brain want to do? I know that it wants to conserve glucose or energy. I got that. I know it wants to keep you safe. I got that too. But there's one thing that very few people talk about of what the responsibility is of your brain. Like, what is one of the things that your brain wants to do? What is your brain doing every second of every day? It is obviously seeing, stuff. It's hearing stuff. It's keeping you safe. It's keeping you away from pain or discomfort. But here's what else that it does. This is one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. And it's the reason I create, my dream board of my family, the things that I want to achieve, the lifestyle that I'm already achieving, and I combine it and I look at it every day. It's the reason I do that. Okay, are you ready? Pay attention. This is like the magic. Your brain is looking for things in the outside world that match your internal map of reality. Let me repeat. Your brain, my brain, is looking for things in the outside world that matches your internal map of reality. And so what does your brain do? Information comes in through your eyes, in through your sounds, in through your tactile senses, and your brain is looking for matches for things that you are conditioned to achieve already. And it deletes and distorts all other information. Why? Because there's so much of it. We not only have 6,200 thoughts a day of our own, But how many messages are you getting on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok, on TV, on radio, while you're driving, while you're listening? Aren't we getting so many messages? Well, if we were to pay attention to all the messages, we'd be frazzled. So our brain deletes and distorts anything that isn't already part of the neural network and map of reality. Does that make sense? So yours and my brain is deleting and distorting most of the information out there. So why do I create my exceptional life blueprint? Why do all of my students, participate in that? Why do I create the lifestyle that I want, right? Why do I create all of this stuff? Well, because I want to upgrade my brain's software every single day. I want to train my brain to see the things that I'm grateful for. I have those in there. I want to train my brain to find the things, to get me to think about and feel the things, and to move me towards the things that I want to achieve. So some of the myths around the brain is that we see, with our eyes, and we see or we hear with our ears, but that's not true. We actually see with our brain, and our brain sees not what there is to see. Our brain sees what we are trained and conditioned to see. So, don't you want to train your brain on how to be in the best shape of your life in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and above? Don't you want to train your brain how to double or triple your income? Don't you want to train your brain to build your business, write that book, become a coach, be in the relationship of your dreams? Don't you want to train your brain to have the ability to help you find what it is that you want? You see, your brain is what's shaping your reality, and our brain's actually projecting onto the canvas called our world outside what it's programmed to achieve and to see and to find. And so why do we use vision boards? Why do we use goals? Why do we review those daily? Because we are, in essence, able to train our brain that way. And when you train your brain, you change your brain and you strengthen your brain. Right? Many of you know my best-selling book, Inner Size, right, is all about strengthening your mind so that you have the focus, the awareness, the beliefs, the habits to achieve the goals and dreams that you have, right? And so when we're talking about myths of the brain, how many of you, have you ever heard that you only use, 5 or 7 or 10% of your brain? If you've heard that, give me a like or a love or just type in, yep, I've heard that. Do you know where that came from? Do you know where that even started? Right? I talked about this last night a little bit on Clubhouse. Every Monday night I do a Clubhouse 2-hour session. Right? Did you ever hear you only use 5 or 7% of your brain? That's a myth. That's a myth. Back in 1908, James Allen, all right, the great philosopher and psychologist, William James, not James Allen. James Allen was As a Man Thinketh. William James wrote a book, and the book, I've got it written down here, The Energies of Men. And he talked about how, we hardly use, a fraction of our potential. And here's the truth. How many of you think that you only use 10% of your brain or less? Here's what all the latest research suggests, right? Our brain is made up of 3 networks: salience, executive, and default mode network, and circuits that turn on or off, right? Success circuit. Can you flip on your success switch? Of course you can. Can you turn on or off your fear switch or your anxiety or doubt or stress switch or circuit? Is there a spiritual circuit, right? Where you feel connected to the source, one with that which created you, right? Of course, there are circuits that turn on or off, and certain things turn them on or off. So where am I going with this? The latest research shows that the 5 to 7 to 10% of our brain usage is a myth. We use 100% of our brain every 24 hours. Now, here's something to be aware of. If we're using 100% of our brain, does that mean that we're using 100% of the potential of our brain? No. And this is where the myth gets busted, right? we are using the networks that we have. We are using the conditioning that we have accumulated since birth, since the imprinting, modeling, and experiential years. And so when we have a belief, our brain plays out the belief, right? So when we have a belief, right, our brain is activating those beliefs, our brain's activating those habits, and our brain is looking for things that match in the physical world with our current belief structure and our conditioned brain, like software on your phone or software on a computer. Does that make sense? So if our brain has the ability to create new connections, to create new beliefs, habits, paradigms, etc., to strengthen our focus, our resolve, our grit, our awareness, and we can upgrade our habits and let go of destructive, disempowering ones, that thereby causes us to change our brain so we can change our results. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Listen, I'm going to show you. This is your $100 billion brain. $100 billion brain. You own it. You don't owe a penny on your brain, right? You don't owe a penny on your brain. You own your brain. But is it possible that maybe you just don't know how to use it as well as you could just yet, right? I've got a couple questions for you. How many of you would like to learn how to change your brain so you can change your income? Change your brain to change your income. Is it possible that the amount of money you make is not based on what you can make? Is it possible that the amount of money you make every day, every week, every month, every year is what you are conditioned to earn? Is it possible that we become conditioned and then the conditioning creates the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that lead to our results, right? If you look at results are effects, right? If you look at the end of an apple tree, you see an apple there, right? You know what the seed was that created the apple tree, right? And so if you look at your income, your bank account, your net worth, you see the effect of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and yes, your behaviors, the ones you take and the ones you don't. So by the way, if you want to learn how to change your brain so you change your income, how many of you have heard of the Brain-A-Thon that we do every year? Because on October the 23rd, we have an all-day free event with me and 5 other world-renowned brain and success experts. If you type into the chat, okay, doesn't matter what platform you're on right now, type into the chat BRAIN, B-R-A-I-N, BRAIN. I'll send you an automatic link and you can learn from me, Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols, Marissa Peer, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, Nirka, and Dr. John D. Martini. So if you want to join this year's new, all brand new Brain-A-Thon, type in BRAIN right now. We'll send you a link and we'll reserve a spot for you. It will blow your mind. You'd normally pay $1,000 for that kind of training. You can get it for free and share the link once you get it. Okay, so let me continue. All right, just type in BRAIN in the chat and you'll get that right away. So let me continue. So when you and I are conditioned to earn a certain amount of money, when we are conditioned to be a certain weight and physique, when we are conditioned to have certain expectation points around our relationship or career or business, is it possible that yours and my brain develops these habitual patterns to make it easy for us to take action consistent with the conditioning, not the potential? Let me repeat. Is it possible that once we are conditioned to a certain weight, to a certain relationship, to a certain career, to a certain business, is it possible, just play along with me, that now our brain's responsibility is to automate that thought, emotional, and behavior process to conserve energy and to delete anything else that doesn't match with the conditioning, the patterns, right? The patterns. So our brain is not only reinforcing patterns or set points, correct, right? But our brain is deleting and distorting anything that doesn't match those patterns. So, how many of you heard that, you were hardwired, you were born hardwired at birth, right? You're just like your mother, you're just like your father. We weren't born hardwired for the beliefs that we have. We weren't born hardwired for the fears that we have. We weren't born hardwired for the self-image or self-worth that we have. We weren't born hardwired with any knowledge or skills. We were born hardwired with some genetic predispositions. I get that. But there's a new research body of work around epigenetics. That means we can override even our genetic predispositions at the DNA level. So how do we do that? Well, we learn how to channel and focus our brain's power. We learn how to manage our emotions. We learn how to deactivate patterns that don't serve us and activate patterns that do, and trigger, right, the feelings and the emotions that we want. So it doesn't matter if you've had a trauma when you were younger. It doesn't matter if you didn't do well in school. It doesn't matter if you were late to bloom. It doesn't matter if you feel or felt you're too young or too old, or you're limited because you live in a certain part of the world. When you start to train your brain to focus on what it is that you want, right? When it is that you train your brain, okay, to focus on what it is that you want, then you are able to get your brain to see things that match up with what you want versus the conditioning. Now, if you wanted to get into shape, you might start to exercise, right? Well, if you wanted to get your brain in better shape to help you achieve what you want, you might start to innercise, to create and strengthen the neural patterns so that your brain then sees and causes you to feel and causes you to behave in ways that are consistent with what it is that you're training your brain to do. Does this make sense? We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are, and we are a culmination of the neural patterns, the beliefs, the habits, the paradigms, and the automatic behaviors called our habits. Does that make sense to you? It takes, based on some of the latest research, between 66 days and 365 days to retrain your brain's neural patterns. About 66 days to 365 days. So let me ask you a question. If you want to get healthier, if you want to start developing new patterns of earning more income or managing your income better, doesn't it make sense that if the research shows that it takes between 66 days and 365 days to create a new pattern that gets reinforced, that becomes the new default way of being, that if you're looking to change a result, doesn't it make sense? Like, this is logical, right? Doesn't it make sense? Anything that you commit to changing whatever it is for at least 100 days. All of my students, and many of you, are here, all of my students agree to changing their brains for 100 days. And when we talk about changing the brains, we're actually talking about creating and reinforcing more powerful mental and emotional patterns so that you're in control of them versus them in control of you. Does that make sense? Now, listen, we didn't know this stuff 10, 15 years ago, but now we know that our brain, okay, is made up of three major networks: default, executive, and salience network. We know that we have circuits that turn on or off based on the incoming light that's coming in through our ears, the sound that's coming in through our ears, based on our dominant thought pattern. We know that. And we also know that you and I could have more conscious control over $100 billion brain of ours. And we know that with a little bit of training, right? We train our muscles. Why not train our neuromuscles, right? Does this make sense? Train your physical muscles to be stronger. Train your mental and emotional neuromuscles to be stronger, right? So think about this. I want to ask you a question. Have you been making about the same amount of income for the last 2 years? Do you get yourself into debt, out of debt, into debt, out of debt, into debt, out of debt, into debt, out of debt? Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, you keep achieving and repeating patterns? And so you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You set financial goals. You work really hard. Maybe you achieve a little bit more success, but then you revert back to your old behaviors, right? I want you to understand, right, that yours and my brain will reveal patterns to us just when, we start to pay attention, right? So if you see patterns that you keep repeating, whether it's every week, every month, every quarter, every year, doesn't it make sense for us to go a little bit beneath the surface of what's triggering the pattern, right? A pattern could be a thought pattern. A pattern could be an emotional pattern. A pattern can be a behavioral pattern. And our brain develops patterns, otherwise known as habitual patterns, to conserve energy as one of its core functions. So once we earn a certain amount of income, once we're used to a certain amount of debt, once we're used to a certain type of job, once we're used to a certain amount of business revenue, our brain has this almost like a financial glass ceiling or a debt comfort zone. And then our brain does what? It manages our mental and emotional behavioral energy in order to keep it in the comfort zone. Let me share this with you a different way. Let's say you're in a room right now or your car, okay? Is there a thermostat in your room or your car that you're in right now, or the office that you're in? Is there a thermostat? Probably, right? So when the thermostat is set at 18 or 19 degrees Celsius or 20 degrees Celsius, or let's say 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I know we have people from all over the world. What happens if hot air comes into the room? A signal is sent through the electrical system, okay, in the room or the car, and the air conditioning comes up if there's too much hot air. If cold air comes in, then a signal is sent through the electrical system to turn the heat on, right? So whenever we have a setting, whether it's a financial setting, whether it's a weight setting, a relationship setting, a career setting, right? Our brain becomes conditioned to certain set points, comfort zones, or homeostasis, it's called. Then our brain calibrates thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to maintain the setting as a way to do what? To keep us sane, as a way to conserve energy, as a way for us to maintain our identity at the subconscious level. And yes, several of you are typing in right now, psycho-cybernetics, right? Cybernetics is a control and response system that we use, whether it's thermostats, guidance missile systems, GPS systems, but also our brain has a GPS of its own that does what? Calibrates our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to match the conditioning, the settings, the comfort zone. So is it possible that you're earning a certain amount of income, and even though you want more, even though you want to be out of debt, even though you want the lifestyle of your dream, the comfort zone is set and locked into your subconscious mind? Is it possible that even though you may read books, even though you may show up on one of my live trainings that I do every Tuesday morning on the channel that you're on right now, is it possible that no matter how much you learn, no matter how much you want and desire and hope and pray, behavior has to change at the subconscious level, and beliefs have to change at the subconscious level, and habits have to change at the subconscious level to be able to create that synergy between the vision and the goals and the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors? Does that make sense to you? We have to reset the financial settings at the subconscious level to match the financial goals that we want to achieve at the conscious level. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, right? And if you like this type of training, then join me on October the 23rd for the all brand spanking new Brain-A-Thon, just type in brain, B-R-A-I-N, in the chat, just that word, and my team will send you a link to sign up. It's free. There'll be me, Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, 500 million books he sold. He'll talk about the latest stuff that he uses to train his brain. Lisa Nichols, remember her from the movie The Secret? She will be on this year's Brain-A-Thon. Nurka is back. We've got Dr. John DeMartini. We have Marissa Peer. We have Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the top brain experts in the world right now. So just type in brain right now and we will get you a link. And also block out from 9 o'clock Pacific, which is 12 o'clock New York, till probably it's a 6-hour all-day event, and we are not going to be charging any money for it. It is free. And this is going to be our 9th annual Brain-A-Thon. And not only will it help you bust some myths, we'll give you the tools to train your brain. If you like this type of training of understanding and then making the change required to reset your financial thermostat, the theme this year is change your brain, change your income. How many of you are going to come? Let me know if you are going to come to it. If you were to pay for this event, you'd pay, $500 to $1,000. How many of you are going to come to it? If you're going to come, just type in brain and I will know. Yeah, invest in yourself. You already own the most powerful biocomputer in the whole world. You just need to learn how to use it better, right? I tell people this a lot. I didn't succeed, and I don't succeed because I'm the smartest guy on the block. I succeed because I am willing to change. I'm willing to change my beliefs. I'm willing to change my habits. I'm willing to change and upgrade my knowledge and skills. I'm willing to change and become more so I can have more. I failed English. I failed math. I left high school in grade 11. I was voted most likely to fail in life, but I was willing to listen and change. So a lot of people prefer to master disappointment instead of mastering change. I don't want to be disappointed in my life. How many of you are committed to living an extraordinary life? A lot of people are committed to living an ordinary life, and that's how they're behaving. But a little bit of extra effort, right? Extraordinary is how you live an extraordinary life. It's not, a lot of different things, but it's a few things consistently that create an extraordinary life. All right, so I hope you enjoyed today's session. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook. We have a private Facebook page for anybody who is signing up for the Brain-A-Thon. We're going to do some additional training there. And would you agree that if you want more, more money, more health, better relationship, a better career, more of the good life, more fun, it starts with you becoming more? Would you agree with that? It becomes with you becoming more. You don't have more just because, you want more. But doesn't it make sense that if you want more, you need to become more? You need to become more skilled at your focus, your awareness, your attention, right? So don't be afraid to become more. Let's not live a life of regret. Let's live a life that we are proud of, all right? So I am glad that many of you signed up for the Brain-A-Thon, the all-new Brain-A-Thon, October the 23rd, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 o'clock New York, until about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, all-day event. It's free. Bring your friends, bring your family. It's our 9th one. Over 5 million people have signed up for our previous Brain-A-Thons. Every year, during the live Brain-A-Thon, we have between 100,000 and 150,000 people that we impact their lives with some brain experts. Okay, so everybody have an awesome day. I appreciate you. Thanks for being part of my orbit. I like to give you lots of stuff that is usable every single day. Create your vision, create your goals, come up with a big reason why. Train your brain to help you achieve those goals. And if you want to learn how to do it faster and easier than ever before, type in brain into the chat. Join us for the all-day training for free. October the 23rd. Bring your friends, your family. It will blow your mind. Me, Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols, Marissa Peer, Dr. John DeMartini, Lisa Feldman Barrett, Nurka, world-renowned experts to help you live the life of your dreams. All right. Arrivederci. Hey, this is John, and if you liked that video, watch the next video because it is packed with things that you can do right now to achieve success way faster than ever before.